Hello everyone, Mike Henderson here with sort of a revised version of my series of videos on how to typeset your novel using OpenOffice Writer. I'm calling this one No Tears Typesetting, because if you do not know what you're doing and you're trying to make your book look good for print, then you could beat your head against the wall for days and give up and be frustrated and hate life. It's actually quite simple once you know how to do it and know a couple of the tricks involved. So I'm using OpenOffice Writer, which is a free program. It's part of the OpenOffice suite. I think it's Apache OpenOffice now. In any case, you could download it and install it and run it. It's all quite simple, and it is free, the best part. And it's a very word-like program. It's robust and is perfectly powerful as any word processing program there is that you pay money for. So the first thing we're going to do, I have just opened a new document and it has sort of the default settings. The key to this whole thing is what OpenOffice Writer calls styles. And we're going to need a couple of different styles. So we're going to begin with format up here. I'm going to go down to styles and formatting, which you can also get to by pressing F11. And then you'll see a series of icons up here, and then this down here. There's nothing here because this is listing custom styles for this document, by the way, and all this is document by document. So you're not going to create something and then go to another document and find it there. You have to create it for each document. And then what we're going to do is save a template and go back to it. So we can have it for every time we do a novel. We don't have to recreate the wheel. We can't reinvent the wheel, as they say. We can simply call up the template and go to town. So I'm going to list all styles because it lists all the styles. So you can see this is the default. There are two boxes, one here and one down here. This is the paragraph style. So that's what it shows here, paragraph style. And this is the page style, and that's what this is, page style. Those are the two things we're going to be concerned with. So we're going to go to default. I'm going to right click. There's actually, you can go to any of these. It doesn't make any difference. I just default. New. You have two options. You're going to modify it or you're going to make a new one. We'll make a new one. And this box comes up. This is what they call the organizer, which is probably a stupid name, but we're going to give this a title. And this is our paragraph style, and this is going to be just typesetting paragraph. The next style means what follows. This, in other words, this changes the thing paragraph by paragraph, and you are going to want the next paragraph to be the same style, so you select next style, paragraph. Linked, I don't want it linked with anything, so I'm going to select none. And it's in the category of custom styles. So then when I don't have to go through this list, I just tell it to display the custom styles, and it will be in there. Next is indents and spacing. This determines the line spacing and the indentation of the paragraphs, because you are not using tabs. You are using sort of an automatic indentation. So the first line, we don't want any indentation before or after the text. In other words, it would indent this whole thing. I'm just talking about the first line of each paragraph. These represent paragraphs, so this dark section. You're going to see this change when I change these things. First line, I put a 0.2 just because I want to have a small amount of indentation. Now watch this, right? I get rid of it, it goes back over a little bit. I add the 2, watch it, goes over. So it sort of gives you a graphic of what you are doing. Spacing above and below the paragraph is the spacing here and spacing here. I don't want any spacing. Sometimes people do that, and I've even seen online programs that by default put a space between the paragraphs, and I don't like it even in an e-book, and certainly for a print book, which is the whole purpose to this. It's inappropriate, so do not put any spaces between the text. Line spacing. When you're formatting a book, you do not have double space, you do not have single space, and probably don't even have one and a half space. So I don't want single space, which it says here, so I would do the drop down. I put it at fixed, and then I 0.2, somewhere around 0.2 is good. Maybe a 0.18 is a little better. It depends. It's a matter of your taste. If you look in a book, you can see what the spacing is and then try to copy that. Alignment, I want it to be justified, which means it's even with both sides. The last line is left justified, which means this line, which is not a full line of text, is over here, because otherwise it will spread it out. And we'll probably see examples of that in the text. We don't want that. It looks really stupid. Forget that and that. Okay, good. Text flow, which this is where you would add hyphenation and other things, widow and orphan control. You do not want widow and orphan control in your book, because you want every page to have the same number of lines, and the widow and orphan control will make it to where it doesn't have the same number of lines. So to keep text together, it will sort of lob one off or add one or whatever it does. We don't want that, so leave all this blank. The hyphenation, we do not want to automatically hyphenate everything. We want to do it as we go through. It's a little tedious and time consuming, but in order to do it right, that's what you need to do. Font. Come on, font. All right, what are you doing? Oh, there. Okay. Font. All right, finally, thank you. You do not want your book in Times New Roman. There are about 4 or 5 fonts that people suggest you use, and one of those, for example, is one called Minion, which is what I'm going to use here. Palantino Linotype, which is one I have used in other books. Baskerville, and some other ones. Just do a Google search on best fonts for typesetting, and there will be articles on it and talk to you about why it is. You do not want Times New Roman, but I am going to use one called Minion. It's spelled like so, and here it is. Regular typeface, in other words, it's not bold or italics or any of that. And size, I find that around 11 point, depending on the font. Some fonts look a little better in 10.5. 12 I find to be a little too big. So I use 11, and that's it. This is a serif font. In other words, it has these little ticks on the letters, rather than just being a straight line, such as you will find in Arial. Font effects, position. Font effects, leave alone. We're not going to do any font effects. Position. I don't know why this is being so cranky just now. Probably because I'm trying to make a video. The spacing we will talk about later, just leave it at default. We use this as we go through to try to make it look better. Position is normal. It's not a superscript or a subscript. And for now, we're just going to leave this at 100%. Sometimes I take it off of there, but as we go through to typeset the thing to clean it up, you're going to see that you may need to vary this. So we're going to leave that as it is. The rest of this we will leave, and we will say OK. And that is the paragraph. Now, and that does a paragraph by paragraph. You can just select a paragraph, or you can select the whole document and try to get it to change it. The next thing you want to do is the page style. Again, you'll take so it's listed here, styles and formatting all. Take the default, right click, and new. And I'm going to give it a name, which is typesetting front matter. Because the front matter of the book, where you have sort of you have the things like the acknowledgments and the copyright notice and all, is a different layout than the body of the text. The next style is going to be the same. It's not linked with anything. The page, and this is just a title, by the way, the typesetting front matter, you can call it anything you want. There is no rule on that. Page. Now this is critical. The page setup depends on the size of the book you want. The only way to figure this out is to go to create space, look at the options, or whatever program you're using, but I use create space, and most people do, I think. Go there. They have a list of the different sizes available, and with these sizes are associated the page width and length, and also the margins that you're going to put in. So I like a 5 1/4 inch, which, if you remember your fractions and decimals, is 5.25 by 8. That gives it, in my view, a very nice sized book. It's easy to hold. It's not too big, and you can make it fairly inexpensive. Before we get down to this, we've got to go to page layout. The page layout of a book is not symmetrical. Here is sort of a little graphic of what they're providing by way of the margins and orientation, which of course is portrait. You don't want landscape because it's a long way. You want a book, is portrait. Paper tray, ignore. So the page layout is, for a book, mirrored. Okay, so now it shows 2 pages. And this is the spine of the book. This is what's called the inside margin. And this is what's called the outside margin, top and bottom. Now it says inner, outer, top and bottom. Now for my 5 1/4 by 8 inch book, I have gone to create space and gotten the data, and they say to use 0.9 inches for the inner, 0.6 for the outer. Whoops, not 6.6. The top I will do 0.46, and the bottom I will do 0.72. These are all changeable depending on whether, your own personal taste, but this is basically a good way to do it. Now what you've noticed is this all changes. This margin is not as wide as this margin, because at the binding of the book you want the margin wider because it goes into a curve. And if it's the same length or too thin, then the text will go down into the fold and it won't be able to read it. Okay, so once that's done, the background is just a color. It's always going to be white. Header, off. I am doing the simplest method possible, so we don't have to bust our head over getting different headers and footers. I mean headers on each page right now. The header is off. Footer is going to be on. Same content left and right, so it's got a little thing down here now. And this is where I'm going to put the page number. Bottoms, borders, columns, and footnotes, ignore that. I say OK. So, whoops. Actually, let me go back here for a second, because what I did, here's a lesson. You can typeset and you can modify this. Now the great part is when you modify it here and you have this selected as your document, it will change everything in the whole document. I made a mistake because this is the front matter, there is no footer. Okay? I'm sorry about that, but no footer in the front matter. So if you look at a book, there's no page number, there's no headers or footers where the copyright page is, or where the acknowledgments or dedication and all of this title page. All right, so we're going to say OK. And then I'm going to make another one that is, I'll go back to the default. I will right click it, a new one, because I want this page style to be different for the body of the text, mainly because I'm going to have a footnote. So this is typesetting body. Whoops. Text style, the next one will be typesetting the body, and all that is the same. We're going to go here and do the page thing. And why is it being so difficult? And again, I'm just going to do it 5.25, 8 mirrored, and the 0.9, 0.6, 0.46, 0.72. There it is. Looks like I want it to look. Background, same thing, just white. Header, off. Footer, this is where we do want the footer on. Same content left and right, so the footer thing is down here. And that's that, borders, columns. So here we have now two page styles, only one paragraph style. We're going to leave it at that. And we saved it. So we can go here, and this will be the front matter. And you see what it's done. It has one page. Now, for whatever reason, it starts with a page. This is the right-hand page, although it's going to always show it on the left. It's one of the confusing things about this. But that's okay, because when you upload this thing to CreateSpace inserts a page, a blank page. So then this is really on the right. Now, the way we're doing it, where I don't have any headers or footers, so the headers and footer, we don't have any headers, so that the headers are not different from one side to the other. I don't need to worry about what's left and right. So I'm just going to exit that, and I'm going to now save it as a template. I'm going to say File, Templates, Save. Now I have one already, and I'm just going to call it the same, the novel for the video, and it saved it. And that is the first bit of setup. And in the next video, I'm going to start with retrieving the template and taking it from there. Take it easy.